Yo, I'm building my own dream. All because y'all said I couldn't.
Two for the team, we getting off of the block. I see him aiming at me, tell him get off of my jock. I'm gon' black out, I'm gon' black out, I'm gon' black out. Give me my ish, I'm back now.
Alright, E, what's up?
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of the How to Build Your Own Dreams podcast. You see, I got it right this time.
Finally, 20 episodes in.
This is like episode 14 or 15, maybe something like.
Nah,
is it
it's like
20?
18.
Oh, 18.
Yeah.
First time I got it right without having to reshoot it. But y'all, we're here in Austin, Texas again. As y'all know, every time Brandon and I are together, we shoot a podcast.
Yeah.
And yesterday we were in town for Trap Sake. Great event. It's our second one. We have a partnership with Texas Sake. Shout out to Texas Sake. A ton of people came out last night.
Oh, yeah, it was
Or
lit.
yesterday.
It was
It's a day
dope.
party.
It was a
And
dope ride.
I'm just encouraged by how the community is growing in Austin. So speaking of community, obviously I got to have my VP introduce himself first. And then we're going to talk about the community that we're building right here with our homie. But let me let you introduce yourself first.
Yeah. Brandon Boone, co-founder of Build Your Own Dreams. Again, we in Austin, Texas. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this episode. And before we jump into it too, we just hit 1,000 downloads. We appreciate everybody from tuning in. Keep tuning in.
By the time this drops, we may be at like 1,500
Facts.
downloads. Who knows?
Facts.
So keep downloading and sharing it with your friends. Also, our most viral video just hit 750,000 views.
Yeah, that was
on
crazy.
Instagram alone.
That was
It's doing
crazy.
really well on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's got like 250K on TikTok, like 20,000 on Facebook, which is insane. So we're saying this, y'all, because we're encouraged. Y'all are really watching, sharing. Y'all are showing us love. We're getting DMs almost every day about the podcast. So we're grateful for y'all, and we're going to just keep this going.
Yeah. So today we're here with Abel of the Barbershop. What's going on, man?
What's happening? Thank you so much for having me, both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry
for
for the
being here,
long
Abel.
intro. We was excited.
No, hey, I enjoyed it. That's what I'm here for. So
Yeah,
I'm grateful
yeah.
to be part of this, and it's an honor for me to be here.
Yeah.
And I love what you guys are doing. As
Appreciate it. And as you can see, we are, the people who are watching, you can see if you listening, we are actually in his barbershop today, which is on East Austin. Definitely check out if you in the city. Make sure y'all pull up and show some love. But yeah, tell us about, you know what I'm saying, the shop, man. The vibes is crazy.
Thank
You
you.
know what I'm saying? I love what you building. We met on Instagram actually maybe like a month or so ago, and then we've been talking, and then you invited me up here to have a meeting. You know what I'm saying? We talked about a good hour or so, and then you just really inspired me on what you was building here. So I guess kind of tell us about the space and why you created this type of barbershop, and then we can go from there.
As you were saying that, I thought about exactly part of the reason why I built this shop too. It was to bring people and give them an experience that it's different than other places. One of the things that we pride ourselves in is that we have learned that when you create a business or you create a brand or you create any type of endeavors, it's a lot of it is world building.
Oh yeah,
Right?
Okay.
yeah,
You're in there. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lesson that we kind of have put a label to it, but I think subconsciously we probably were already doing it. We just didn't know how to describe it.
Right.
And the best way to describe it has been, how do we create a world that people can escape from their current one? And the barbershop has been that bridge. And people take 45 minutes to an hour of their day when they have an appointment, and they come here and experience that different reality in some degree. And aside from getting a really good haircut, they get really good conversations from our barbers. They get really good a good treatment from them. You know, life is hard out there.
Yeah,
And a barbershop, it's a good way to escape from all of that.
It's like a safe haven.
Absolutely. Intentionally too. That's why sometimes bringing in the right people to be able to provide that safe haven, it could be challenging. A lot of times there's a culture within the barbershop industry with barbers that they're not necessarily thinking about this process of creating an experience in an environment that it's safe for everyone to have. That's one of the things. And to that, Brandon, bringing you here was also part of the intention of starting the shop. You know, how do
Right.
we bring people and connect with them? And the shop, it's a perfect, beautiful place to do that with.
Facts. And then I think something that really stood out to me when we had a conversation, you was like, you treat each barber like an entrepreneur. And you really, it's just more than just you hire a barber, they cut hair, and then that's it. You was like, you really trying to train them and becoming their own business.
Absolutely.
So why that? Because a lot of barbershops, from at least what I know, I don't know if other barbershops do this, but you the first person I heard of where you really investing your time and effort into building each barber up as their own.
Absolutely. That exactly was part of the reason why we take this approach, because other shops are not doing it. And one of the things that I've seen about barbering is that it's a very personal job in the service industry.
Yeah.
You're touching somebody.
So many guys are like my barber. They're like my guy. Yeah.
Exactly. And to that is, you already, to me, barbers already have a solid foundation to become bigger.
Right.
And one of the things that we pride ourselves in, it's like, man, there's so much untapped energy and so much untapped talent and perspective that it gets stuck based on where they at in their location and their environment.
Right.
Because they're constantly on a little bit of a rat race, like people in and out in the chairs, so they don't have a lot of time to build that entrepreneurship space. They're constantly cutting, very time limited. Sometimes it's hard for even them to build relationships.
Right.
But here at the shop, we really want them to take a little bit of time out of their routine to explore other areas that's going to make them not only better barbers, but also better business people. One example of that is we talk a lot about communication. What sort of approach or framework or strategy they can use to build a really good relationship with people. That's one layer. The other layer is also how to manage their finances correctly.
Right. Come on.
Because that's very challenging for a lot of people. Not only barbers, this is just all over the nation.
Right.
So we talk a lot about the finances, their own personal finance, their business finance, and how to organize themselves. Also, we talk about the area of marketing, how to market themselves, how to position themselves with their client, who to target, why target them, what is their vision, and how we get close to that and create a roadmap for them to achieve it. So this is not just like come in here, get a haircut. There's a lot of work and intention behind them. There's also a lot of planning. So this is why our barbers, I protect them as much as I can, because these are not just regular fade guys. These are, I want them to be respected with what they do while they're here, and also while they're out there and they become something else. At least they have the opportunity to have a little bit of like experience to do something else. Because what you could do here on a micro level, you could do it out there as well. On a macro.
Facts.
How do you choose your barbers? Are they applying? Are you like scouting the best talent on the internet? Because even with the space, you can tell it's very custom built. You're very intentional. It's so evident how intentional you are. So how do you choose barbers?
Good question. It's challenging. Part of it is, one, I think that just to start, one of the checkbox that we look for is that they at least have a strong foundation on their skills. Not just like I've been cutting in my backyard. It's a little bit more of how long you've been actually cutting professionally. So we try to not bring barbers straight from school, because the gap that we're looking for is still very wide.
Right.
So we want to bring barbers who already been in the industry or working at a shop for at least a year or two. Then we bring them in to build on top of it. So skill gap, it's one. We want it to be as like strong foundation as possible. The other part is we want to bring them, you got to have a vision. Right. Whether it's clear or not, doesn't matter. We'll figure that out. It becomes clear with time, but you got to have a little bit of something, right? So that's the second part. The other one is mindset. Like, are you someone who's been cutting hair for a year, who has an idea, but you also have a mindset of learning, because we want people who are open to learn because of the resources and the energy and the effort that we put behind their development. So that's one thing. Not only open to learn, but also open to challenge yourself. That's another thing. That's a big one.
That's
that
big. Yeah, that's really,
open to
that's
challenge.
really big.
Come on now.
That's a tough one, and it comes with practice. And I think that that's why I'm so protective about them, because I know their journey and I know where they at, and how much pressure they get from us. It's like you said, like this is a very different shop, so they play in a different game that they're not used to.
Right.
Other places they go easy, and it's like I just show up, cut hair, and call it a day. Here we no, there's a process and system.
There's a standard that you have.
There's a stand. That's wrapping it up. There's a standard, and it's a standard that we're serious about, and I think that it shows. Also requires a lot of them. Not only are they cutting hair, but they're interacting with people. They got these things that they're constantly practicing. However, it may seem like a lot initially, but once you get used to your flow, and you get used to the culture, you get used to the way we work, the reward, it's infinite.
Talk about a little bit of that reward. So what is some of that?
Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna say financially yet, but there's a financial reward, unlimited, to be honest. But the reward is also that you are really going to be a different kind of barber amongst the rest.
Oh, okay, I see.
The reward is that people are going to actually differentiate you from the rest, and differentiate you in a way that is respected, and like in a way that you're going to know what you're capable of. Right. And on top of that, you're also going to find out that the world is your oyster quick. Like, it's just unlimited. So there's a lot of rewards internally as a person. Your life changes here. And that's one thing that's why we're a little bit more selective, because if we're going to involve all of the resources and energy and information to barbers, we want them to be valuable for it. Like, this has to be valuable for them.
It sounds like if I wasn't sitting in this barbershop right now, I feel like it sounds like you like each person's business coach. It's more than just I'm the owner, you hiring barbers, they cutting hair, like we've been talking about. But it's like you really investing your time and effort and really building because each barber's like their own business, right?
Correct.
And the whole barbershop umbrella. So it's like you really coaching them through life, whether they want to be a barber after this in 5 years or not, but they will have transferable skills that they can take from everything that you're coaching them through.
It's a beautiful way to say it.
So like because you're not a barber yourself, right?
I'm not, yeah. And I think that's why I have a different perspective.
Right,
and I have a different, and it works for me. I'm sure that there's other barber owners who are also cut hair and they want to coach their guys. But I have I'm standing at a different place because I could get to see from the outside in without being inside the bottle.
Right.
And I try to be as objective as I can so I can see things as they are. Of course, I have a bias. It's my shop, and I'm always going to create excuses for it. But I do make it my business to see, if I didn't own this and I'm not part of this, what would I change about it? And I'm constantly asking myself that question. I don't have all the answers. I always tell them, I don't have all the answers, but we can try something. But that gives me the opportunity to have that additional resource of information with coaching them.
Right.
And being like, at any point too, I don't have to like weigh, hey, you gotta, if I was a barber and an owner, I probably won't have the time that I have available to give them the information that they need.
Okay, so talking about this standard that you have, I feel like I'm hearing things, because this ultimately is a business podcast. The How to Build Your Own Dreams podcast is Brandon and I navigating through building our business, pivoting consistently, and then now, so first round of episodes are just me and him talking, and now these next round of episodes are us interviewing people in the midst of our own conversation of how can we be better business people. So you hit on experience design, which is building this world, right? Which is what we call ourselves experience designers, which is why we got into events, because we're already building community. And then the next thing you want to do is transport that community into your world, right? So you have the experience design element of this, and then you have the standards, and then you have the training. So to me, that seems like such a phenomenal ground, fertile ground for great business people, as you said, that you're giving them these tools. But I want to dive back into your formation. How did you get here to this thought process? Because this isn't something that I know barbershop owners.
Right.
And respect to them in their business. But when I walked in here, I immediately was like, this space is so beautiful. You know, and as a woman, I'm from Atlanta. I've been in a lot of barbershops with my brothers and my dad. Not necessarily a safe place for women. So, you know, sometimes, like, my mom would be like, well, I'm going to sit in here with you because your brother's got to get your hair cut. And then, you know, all the guys are like, okay, don't say anything because the women are in here. You know, it's like, I want to know what got you to being, it seems very countercultural, what you're building here. Not only are you not a barber, you have a beautiful space, you're investing in people, and then you've set a next level standard. What created that desire in you? How did Abel become a businessman with this type of mentality?
No, great question. A little bit of background with me. I came to the United States at the age of 15 from the Dominican Republic. Okay. Coming to United States at the age of 15 is not the same as coming in at the age of 10, True. 8, or 7.
Right.
It's rough because at that point my brain is, I'm a teenager. Yeah. I'm in the rebel mindset, and I'm gonna add another layer to that. I moved to the Bronx, New York. That's a different world. It's not just like, oh, I'm an immigrant and I went to No, I went to like New York City that day one broke me down. Like New York is a place that breaks you.
Yeah.
I didn't know English. I had my sister. My parents were figuring life out. I'm in the middle of all this. But one thing that I can think of, multiple things. Your question is very layered, and I want to make sure that I give you as much as I can for what I can remember. One of the things that I think influenced me to get to this point was it started with me. How do I differentiate myself from the rest of my friends that I grew up in? Yeah. I am my first product. Yeah. I am my first business. I sometimes make it myself. I'm making my business to design myself a lot. Constantly vetting myself and looking my environment and be like, how can I be different? Being in New York City gave me the flexibility to do that because in New York City, as you guys ever been or as you know, it's easier to find your tribe and it's easier to find your own world and go to a place that is different from like where you're currently at. So I was fortunate to do that. And being exposed to other things. If I stood in the Bronx, like a lot of my friends, I would have not know what other is. I would have not know what even world building is or understanding business or understanding different things. So getting outside of your comfort zone, I think has been kind of like the mental model that I have of not only for myself, but really getting my team members outside of their comfort zone. Going back to the barbershop things, like how do our shop get out of that comfort zone that everybody else has? So I think it always starts with self, and then it trickles down with everything else. So that's probably, and of course with time, wasn't overnight. It's a lot of unlearning, a lot of challenging and internal conversations, which is hard to do. It's very difficult to see yourself in the mirror and making those changes. We're not used to that. But I think it always starts with self as your first experiment before you start a business or you try to do that in other ways. Even for a shop, our shop did not look like this 4 years ago at all. If I show you a picture, you will think that it's like something else. And we still have so much more to go. So it always feels like we're constantly building a world. And it's going to look different in the next couple of years. It's going to continue feeling different, but hopefully all for the best. But yeah, to get to this point, a lot of learning, a lot of learning, lessons. I think also asking other people questions and studying other people. One thing that I say sometimes when it comes down to like experience design is I like to say that this is kind of like what Disney World is. Think about it. People pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go to Florida.
Facts.
That's true.
But let's take a step back. They
Yeah.
don't say, I'm going to Florida. They say, I'm going to Disney World.
Right.
Yeah.
It's basically saying, I'm going to escape this reality that I'm currently at,
Yeah.
and I'm going to disappear. That's why the cost is so high. Because Disney gives you a world that you're going to think that you don't even live in the United States. You think you live in Disney.
True.
And that world has characters. That world has different lighting. It has a society. It has laws. It has its own, it's like its own
Right.
country.
Facts.
And I think that if you look at it that way with your own business, there's so many things that you can apply into to your own thing too. Even your website, from every touch point has to feel Disney-like in some sense.
Yeah.
At least framework, right? Like,
Yeah.
of course, in your own brand and your own business model, but those are the things that I think about. The moment you go into anything you interact with that brand, it's thing. It's like different from everything else. So studying other people, reading a lot, asking questions. I sometimes ask questions to other people, even if I already know the answer.
To see how they respond.
They may have another perspective that I may
Right.
not be seeing.
Yeah.
I always say I always have a blind spot, and I'm gonna always have a blind spot because I don't know it all. But that comes with humbleness and being able to accept that and know who you are. We could go deep into that, but I hope I answered your question.
Yeah,
Like, a lot of
that
them.
was great. I feel like there's so much to take from what you just said. Even the way you explained it with such humility, and then you ended with humility. You were like, I have to work on myself and develop there before I can iterate that into other people and into my brand. What made you? Go
I
ahead.
just want to reiterate that starts with self, because a lot of times us as creative entrepreneurs, right, we're always looking to blame other things, right?
Yes.
Blame, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time, or, whatever the excuse is, but it starts with you. So it started with you. You had the vision to be bigger, to be the first of your family to do something like this, or to break the norm, to break the barriers, right? And then you executed that. Well, that's why one of our mottos is you dream it, but then you have to build it too. But I just wanted to reiterate that starts with self, because a lot of times people don't admit to that.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I'm under-resourced, or I don't
Yeah.
have this thing, and you have to. It starts inside of you.
100%. Yeah.
So my next question is, if you don't cut hair, how did you get into owning a barbershop?
Right.
No, great. That's one of the questions that I get the most. Why are you opening a barbershop if you don't cut hair? Multiple things, right? Growing up in New York City, in the Bronx, there is a barbershop culture integrated in it, right? In every corner, I'm Dominican, so it was easy for me to get a Dominican haircut. My boy smoking hookah, so
Yeah.
I've been getting a haircut every 2 weeks since I was probably 12 years old in Dominican Republic. Went to New York. I remember haircuts at the time when I moved was like $20.
Okay, yeah,
so
affordable.
It's very affordable.
Right.
Like I can do this every 2 weeks, not a problem. And I would travel to my barber in New York City to get a haircut every 2 weeks. And I always been interested in creating businesses. I love business. I love the environment of a barbershop, which is why I never had a problem going every 2 weeks. So I created a business out of my lifestyle. It's not something this is not an environment that I'm uncomfortable in.
Right.
This is not like unfamiliar for me. This is a game. This is like fun. This is like I'm just going to create a business, make money out of it while having fun in a comfortable environment that I'm used to already. Now, with that, and my barbers can tell you, I still have so much respect for the craft. However, going back to like being self-aware is I don't have the desire to cut hair.
Right.
So I admit that how other people see it as a weakness, I see it as a strength.
For sure.
Because of, again, breaking the norm. I look at it sometimes also other people who start businesses and they're not that, like CEOs, right? CEOs, I don't know, let's say CEOs of oil rigs. They never been to the field.
Right.
Right? They don't even know how that
Yeah.
thing works, right? They've never been in the ground level of it. But for me, I always was like, I'm observing and I'm gonna do the things that I see a gap on all of them. Because since I don't cut hair, I have the time to market, create content, connect with people. So if I can't cut hair, what can I do with my time to add value to everything else? And I think that's something that I always make sure that I'm using my time effectively. Since I don't cut hair, I get to build a brand and get to build experience design.
That's good.
And you know, that's what a lot of entrepreneurs, their first step is working in the business, because they're doing whatever the service is that they provide. And they always say you graduate when you work on the business instead of in the business. But you came in working on the business and not in the business, which makes sense why you guys have expanded so much in 4 years. I know we want to dive into other business ventures that you have, but because of your mindset and mentality, it seems that you've been able to succeed in ways that most people wouldn't understand because they are so focused on working in the business.
100%. One thing that I've heard recently this week, I heard it twice from a podcast and I heard it from a friend. He said, it's very difficult to read your label inside the jar.
Come on now.
And that to me resonated because that's true. When you in it, it's hard for you to see what's happening outside. One thing that I started doing every Friday, I call it Fly Ass Friday because my guys come 3% better is the Virgil Abloh 3% of like flyer.
Yeah.
They fly already. But on Friday it's like a party. We celebrating the week. And I also part of that. So what I started doing, I stand outside and greet every single client on Friday.
Wow.
And I start handing out our business cards and introducing myself to every single person that walks through the hallway. But it starts with you. That's me showing leadership, showing involvement, and showing that I care. It's very, and I think that part of why this shop is gonna be extremely successful in a few years. Like I want to see another shop competing at the level that we are.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited. I want to get challenged, and I continue like challenging ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to challenge. Yeah, you could have 300 locations, but the feeling that you get from the moment you walk through that door, beats all 30 locations that you have.
Right.
And sometimes a lot of barbershop owners, they think that more shops means more success. It actually brings more stress, especially if you don't have like a core solid foundation at your shop. What we're doing here, and we're not done here. We can once we're done and we feel like, okay, we kind of got a really good solid experience, now we can replicate that.
Right.
And the replicating that is going to be just like off the rip.
We was talking about framework, right, and expanding, but something that you told me that really stuck with me from last month when we met, you was like simplicity scales, fancy fails. And then sometimes when people tell you quotes, it's like, oh, you just saying stuff, but it's like you really utilizing that model and the framework that you building. So I guess kind of go deeper into like why that's something that resonates with you and that you actually building out.
No, yeah. So with us, something that I'm still learning is that overthinking anything, whether starting or purchasing something or redoing or even having a conversation, the more I overthink, the less I end up doing it.
True.
So for me sometimes I think about what is the bare minimum that I can do in order for me to get it done. And a lot of times, once I start, I end up doing the whole thing anyway.
Right.
However, to get there means that I have to take a more simplistic approach.
Minimum viable product.
MVP, MVP. I have a product manager background as a context as well.
Okay, very cool.
So there's that. So yeah, MVP, and I've even going a little bit different on that. The MVP now has been a viable, loving product. So a little bit more intentionality there than just throwing something.
Right.
So still keeping it simple, but when we actually do it, let's do it with intention.
Right. And simple is not as in taking the easy way out, right?
Not at all.
It's more about finding or working smarter.
Working smarter.
Working harder.
Yeah, and also the thought process of getting it done could be actually very simple. A lot of times we overthink. And the other day I was thinking too, like, think about how many people, they have a regular 9 to 5, they're at work, and 8 hours of their day, 3 of them are actually productive.
True.
The rest is just filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot because they understand that their work is actually much simpler than actually is dedicated to it. And imagine if you could take that time and building constant things around it. So it's about, and again, right, like corporate America and anywhere you work, they create complexity to get something done when once you master that skill, not all jobs, some jobs, you could do it actually faster than you think it is.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to entrepreneurship, we start using that same model of like, I need to be working 10 hours in my business. Does your business require 10 hours?
Right.
I don't know. That you have to really take a step back. It required 10 hours at the job you were in because you were actually getting paid for 8 hours. But does it take 8 hours now? I don't know. Just think about
Probably
that.
not.
Probably a lot of times not, unless it's physical maintenance of like, if I stop doing this, it's gonna blow up. Right. But sometimes you could be way more productive with less, but more quality work. So that's a little bit more clear too, like simplicity scales, meaning what can I do in this small amount of time that still gets me a good return? It still gives me it still create an impact. A lot of it is, it's really, to go to your question again too, is I'm learning because of what I'm about to do.
Oh, yes.
So I'm not only learning it and keeping it in my pocket for someday.
Right.
I'm actually in it, right? So I'm living it. Therefore, I need answers. Therefore, let me read about it. Because if I read things that I'm not necessarily aware of, then I will have information and never apply it. So I try to read and try to discover things that I'm currently at so I can apply it immediately. That's why sometimes I heard this the other day too. You can read about swimming all you want, but you're not gonna be a swimmer until you're actually in the pool.
So true.
That's true. And so I taking that and learning from that, it's like, that makes sense. I need the context of what I'm learning in order for me to like apply it.
Yeah, that's good.
And I live what I learn,
right.
basically.
Dope.
Mm-hmm. We can even use that example for this podcast. One of the business coaches that we have, he's kind of more of a coach from a distance. We've invested a little bit of money spending time with him, reading his books, but we follow him and he's big on podcasting. He's like, if you're a business owner, you should have a podcast because 1, it's advertising what you do as a business. 2, it's teaching you the pitfalls of your business because you're actively discussing them. But 3, it puts you in the environment of other entrepreneurs. So that's why when we came up with this, we were like, we should do a podcast. And Brandon's like, yeah, we should do one. And I'm like, no, we got to do a podcast. And even in the time we started this, almost a year ago. Right?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Almost exactly a year ago. Yeah. So we typically film whenever Brandon and I are together, which used to be like every other month. Now it's almost every other week. That it's like we see each other typically 2 times a month. So our business has grown, but we've pivoted twice since then. So the amount of time that we get to spend together, figuring things out, talking to more people, this podcast has enriched us way more than it's enriched anybody else.
Amazing.
Because our communication has gotten better. I've become a better listener. I understand what our audience base is actually interested in, because I podcast on 2 other different platforms, 2 completely different types of podcasts, but this one feels a lot more like me. So finding the rhythm and all of those things. So even what you're saying, it's like, yeah, we could read and read and read and read, but now everything we're sending each other back and forth is like, this is how we need to improve the podcast. Did you watch this? Okay, this is how we need to improve our events. Okay, even the people that we're interviewing, it's like, you have experience when it comes to events as well, and experience design, and a company that creates and throws events. So it's like, okay, let's talk to Abel and see what his business model is. Again, talking to people on the outside, how can they pour into us, and then we also pour into what they're doing and really learn and grow. So we're living that out right now. So it's just encouraging to hear you talk.
Now, I want you guys to dive deep into that too. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So one thing that I'm observing from both of you is that you're doing something very similar that I do, which is you saying you constantly are learning.
Yes.
It's not as hard as people think
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Man. Like, it's not. It just be like, hey, I'm humble enough to know that I don't know everything, but I'm strong enough to know that I'm gonna show up.
Yes.
Now, what happens after that, we'll figure it out. And also something I admire is that the reason why this podcast continues to grow and your events continue to grow is because you're actually taking the time to look from the outside in and seeing, like, how can we improve it? If you have the constant question all the time of how do I create something, how do I make this better or improve it, 1 degree, let's take a chance.
Yes.
Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we got our answer. That's it.
Right.
We got our answer. We have some questions, put it out there, A/B test it. It's gonna speak to you immediately,
Facts.
but you gotta just do it. Again, reading it's one thing, but actually physically doing it's another. Now, let me ask you guys both: what is something that you find challenging about podcasting? Because I know it could be like the setup and really getting together and timing. What has been like the challenging parts of actually getting the episodes completed?
I can speak, but I'm going to speak on Brandon's behalf because he's such a solid dude. He'd never say this, but he does everything. So he sets up the camera, whatever. So our hope and aspiration is, one, to have a videographer, because we have a video person on our team for our events, but we can't afford to fly him out for everything, especially all the podcast episodes. But then Brandon is also editing every episode, mixing the audio, cutting up the social clips.
Thank you.
You know, so he really is taking on the weight of a lot of it. So for me, sometimes I'm like, I had to get really comfortable with being inadequate in ways, you know what I'm saying? Because I used to try to like match his energy. He's really great at so many things. I'm good at a few things. We call each other Shaq and Kobe. Or Shaq and Penny. I don't know if you watch 90s basketball, but Penny is a very agile, super skilled, multifaceted player. That's Brandon. I'm Shaq. I can throw my weight around. If I'm in the paint, I'm killing it. Outside the paint, occasionally I may surprise you. Yeah. But that's us. And I had to, one, as myself, settle into that dynamic. I'm learning more and I'm working at it. So like, I'll listen through the podcast and I'll be like, hey, these are the best clips. You can cut them here. I try to be really active on socials because my engagement is super high. So I know if I post the clip, then we'll probably get more engagement. So I try to lean into what I'm strong at. But I think right now, my struggle is that I feel the guilt of not being able to bear as much weight as he does with the podcast, even though I feel like I really pushed him to do it. So I feel like I struggle with that. But in that, my hope is that as we continue to work this out, we attract what we need, which is a bigger audience to pay for more supplies so that we do have a team that's doing this. But we're working with what we have right now, and we're not ashamed. When we first started, it looked terrible. And it's just progressively getting better and better.
Don't watch episode 1. No.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll tell you this: you gotta suck.
True.
And I did a small clip on Instagram reel about that because I started creating content and I wrote the first one that I did was like, hey man, I'm gonna suck at this. But I promise you that I'm gonna get better.
Facts.
The moment you have that mindset,
Yes.
easy. Now let me ask you, Brandon. Let me ask you the question.
Yeah.
Now that you understand her strengths and you understand the areas where she feels that her desire of putting in more of her time and energy, how do you feel with what she said on that respect?
Nah, I mean, I think we're on the same because I know that I do a lot. I think my issue, I won't say issue, but I guess my problem is just waking up. Like, this year been tough for us as a business. There's been a lot of speed bumps, obstacles, distractions. So now it's just more of like the motivation to keep going. Like, even this morning, I was like, yo, we got this podcast recording. We got a photo shoot we got to do. We got an event we planned. We got a whole conference in Atlanta in 2 weeks. I was like, what is it all this worth it? Like, is it worth to keep going? I should just go get a job, you know what I'm saying, at Apple, Amazon, whatever, and be straight and not to think about any of this no more. But then I come back to reality. It's like, this is my purpose. This is why God put me here. So it's just like putting yourself, like, knowing that it's hard work, of course, but it's like just putting those self-doubt to the side. Like, it's okay, and that's the thing, it's okay to feel like that, to have days like that. Like, I'm sure we all have, especially building a business, you're going to have rough days. But it's like, okay, what do you do after that rough day? It's what defines success. So to me, it's just like, I just know I got to keep going. Because all the pieces is coming together, you know what I'm saying? Even this coming here, it's like, I'm happy that we got to do this.
I
like,
love that.
Not even on, like, for our business, but it's just like, I love community. I love meeting people. I love connecting with people. And I get a joy from that. So it's just like, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I'll keep doing it.
100%. Now, let me ask you this also. How do you keep a balance of having that mindset, right? Of like, how do you get to the point of reminding yourself that this is your purpose? Because it could be easily forgotten for your convenience, because your brain is like, do you really? You're not gonna get paid for
right.
this. Why would
right.
Like, why you? Like, your brain really sabotages you 100%. So having that self-awareness, like, how do you break it out of that narrative that we create sometimes?
I think that that's the major part about community right now. So I wrote a book some months back, and I released it for my birthday in May, and it's called How to Be Excellent, A Beginner's Guide to Achieving the Unbelievable. Because I believe that I've already lived an unbelievable life, but I know I'm just getting started. Oh, yeah. So I just wrote it for like, hey, here's a snapshot of how I've gotten to where I am right now, but this is just the beginning. And I use a framework called CARE, community, accountability, resources, and exceptionality. And I believe if you don't have those, and they come in that order, you get the community, good community gives you accountability. Great accountability attracts resources, and then all of those things combined are what make you exceptional, and then that's when you get to the excellence, right? So I am consistently like, what are we doing here? Right. Like, in tears on the phone with Brandon, like, consistently, because like he said, we've had such a rough year, but on the outside, consistently, every time I see people, every time I'm in Austin, every time, like, on the internet, everybody's like, oh my gosh, y'all are so inspiring, y'all are doing so much. And I'm like, if y'all knew what we went through this year, like, we ran through a little bit of it, but like, we had to furlough our entire staff a month ago for the summertime. We're in the middle of a lawsuit right now where we're getting sued. We lost 2 artists this year, and one of those artists still owes us a surplus of $20,000. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, and that's after having major things stolen from us last year, having to go through legal battles also last year. So coming up October 1st, we're hitting a year of being battered and abused and bruised in a way that a year ago last year, we were like, oh, we're about to go up, because we made it through our first 2 years, and we were like, yeah, it was rocking. We're about to, we were figuring it out, but we were really good our first 2 years as a company. There were ups and downs, but we were doing good. You know what I'm saying? We had investors, we were throwing festivals, all this, and then suddenly we went down, and it just keeps ticking down. So now it's back to Brandon and I think the community that him and I have, just together. And then his wife calls me regularly. She's always texting me encouragement. She's like, yo, I see this. You're doing this. Stay. I know she's hitting me with that. She's hitting him with that. My mom is always in my ear. All the people around us, my best friend and her husband, they're always like, hey, come to the house. Hey, you're doing this, we see this, we know. To the point that it's like, I could have a week where I'm like, F this, I'm not doing this anymore. And so many people go out of their way to encourage me. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be here. And truth of the matter is, if I walked away from it, I would be so uncomfortable, and not in a good uncomfortable. I'd be so uncomfortable because I know I'd be betraying myself. This hard path is for me. I hate how hard it is, but I was built for this. And I know that I wouldn't be here if Brandon wasn't here as well. My first 8 years as an entrepreneur, I did solo. I had business partners, but I was always the one pulling everybody up. At this point, me and him are both constantly pulling each other. Yo, we gotta, and because of that, that's why I stay. And that's why even this podcast is accountability. We have to tell people what we're doing and where we're at, because if we stop, our people are gonna be like, yo, what's up with y'all said y'all was doing, so. Yeah.
Wow. No. And the reason why I say that is because both of you have so many opportunities to give up, and you still didn't. Yeah. That to me told me everything. Everything. Most people, what? They would have not showed up today. And I'm not promising you anything, but I can tell you this episode here, something good is gonna come out of it.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I
that.
believe it.
Hey.
Oh, 100%. And the reason why I say that is because one thing I'm learning, this is just like me learning too. The more we see ourselves pouring into our barbers, pouring into our community, pouring into our business, pouring into the things that we really appreciate, it takes a little bit of time for that impact to travel back to you. Just takes a little bit longer than like instant gratification. Because what you guys are doing, you're not working for now success.
Right.
You're working for future success. And success for you, I'm sure it means different things, but hang in there. You're almost there. You're always gonna feel like you're almost there. Even if other people see that oh, you're success. People tell me all the time, oh, you have a great, I'm like, I'm not done. Like, this is the bottom of the first inning for us.
Yeah.
This is just, we just went through a three outs. We have 9 more innings to go. And that's what differentiates a lot of people who are successful versus the rest. That one episode that you're like, don't watch episode 1. I guarantee you next year, you're going to look at that and be like, that's not even us.
Right, yeah.
That's not even us. And that is a feeling that is priceless, man. No, I wanted to talk about how you guys collaborate. Tell me a little bit about collaboration, because that's something that we also talk about constantly here at the shop. Collaborating. A lot of times, barbers, they are independent contractors, right? So in their mindset, it's like, I do my own thing, you do your own thing, right? Yeah. But here it's a collaborative effort of 6 businesses coming together and doing something special. Mm-hmm. With you guys, how collaboration been for both of you, and how valuable and the results that you guys have gotten from it versus coming from like a solopreneur, right? To collaborating, what has been your experience?
I'll start real quick, but I really do want Brandon to share on this. That's true. We both were solo entrepreneurs. Well, we both had other people. Like, he was doing stuff with his family. I was doing stuff with just homies in Atlanta. But I will say that we were probably both the heart and soul of both of our businesses, solo businesses. But we both grew up playing basketball too. So we started discovering things about ourselves as we were working together that made sense while we worked so well. But we both, children of military fathers, both grew up in church, playing basketball, had siblings, so your mindset is a little bit already attuned because you have so many similar experiences. We both grew up in the South, so I think because we had a similar underlying foundation, it made collaboration easy, and we both saw each other's brightness, I think, and that to me is the foundation. Brandon, I met at South by Southwest. I tell this story often. He was at an event that I pulled up to. he was helping with that event, but then passed me a flyer, and I flipped the flyer over. The flyer was split into like 2 flyers on one side and 2 on the other side. And he was like, yeah, these are all the events I'm working on. I'm like, wait, you helped run this event, but you have 4 more events? But also, he's running these events and wasn't too humble to pass out flyers. So I'm like, who are you? So I'm like, yo, let me get your information. We exchange information. I'm doing similar things in Atlanta. Like, I'm throwing tours, but I'm also the tour manager. I'm driving everybody. I'm managing all the artists. So I knew we were the same type of person. So a month later, the guy he was working with to throw events in Austin wanted to do something in Atlanta. He connected us again, and we immediately started working. Within 6 or 7 months, we had another business we had started together. It was a booking agency, and then within a year, we started this company together. And he was the first person I had in mind to start Build Your Own Dreams. And the first person I called, he said yes. And like, this is how he said yes. I was like, yo, because we started out as a label. I was like, yo, do you want to start a label with me? He was like, yeah, what do you want to call it? That's it. He, like, no, the only question was like, what do you want to call it?
He was ready.
I was like, I want to call it Build Your Own Dreams. He was like, dope. And then he sent me an invite on the calendar to have a meeting about it the next week. And immediately I was like, oh, I have never, because normally I'm that person. I'm like, okay, when we gonna meet? He was ready. So like we were attracted to the same things, and we move in similar ways, but he's also very organized, which is such a weakness for me. So like I immediately saw that he had an incredible strength, but he's very creative and he's great at marketing. So it's like he has so many positive attributes. I'm like, how is this consistently? I'm like, how are you so good at so many things? How did I get to have a business partner like you? Like, I'm like the face of the company. People know me and they think that I'm the one behind all of this, but Brandon is the driving force. He's the one who really keeps us on track. He's the one who helps me dream when I can't dream anymore, and then he's going after it. He's got both sides. So I don't know. Brandon Boone is the GOAT, and I'm just grateful, like genuinely grateful to be business partners with him. And we hit our 3-year anniversary in less than a month as a company, and I'm just like, if we've done this in 3 years, I can't wait to see what 10, 15 years looks like.
Oh man, incredible. Well, let me tell you something. I love that you are recognizing Brandon's role. That is collaboration. Yeah. That right there is collaboration to me. And I'm looking from the outside in. I'm like, I love hearing business partners give each other's credit for their work and being able to recognize it in public. Yeah. Like, there's gonna be 1,000 people plus watching this. Yeah. And that is beautiful. And I think that what you just said, you're setting an example for other businesses and collaborators to really have that conversation with each other. And one thing that you mentioned that caught my attention was like, you recognize his brightness. Yeah. You didn't go into like, oh, but he's from here, like little stupid things. You actually were like, nah, everyone has the dark spots, but you focus on what brings us together. Yeah. What is that light that I am attracted to continue working with? And I'm gonna give you the chance, Brandon, to also like share your thoughts on the collaboration. But thank you so much for doing that. That's a great. You're an example. No, that's a really good example. I wish more people and more business partners and collaborators give each other's like their credit. Yeah. And I'm sure that he probably will say the same thing about you in a minute.
Facts. So. She gets too much credit to me. But no, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go a different angle too. But when she was speaking about how we was brought up, I think subconsciously, I guess it's collaboration always been on my mind. Yeah. So processing that's like, it was just, it's a part of me. Like she said, my dad's in the military. That's collaboration. You're not gonna see one soldier walking down the street. You're gonna see an army. Basketball, like it's a team game. It's a team sport. And me personally, I was good. I was a great player, but I wasn't the most talented. So you will never know that I was scoring 25, 30 points unless you just, pick me out. But a part of that was, again, collaboration. I wasn't the Michael Jordan of the team, but I was the Draymond Green. That's a team player. He's a hustler. He's a harder. He going to do what he needs to do and play his role in the team, right? So I think all of that in my mind, it was always, it's just collaboration, community is a part of who I am. But on top of collaboration, that sometimes people, I guess, don't remember, it's like we also bring each other value, right?
Yeah.
So she saw what I was good at, or that I was doing a ton of events when we first met, but she was also doing the same thing. So she brought value to what I wanted to do. I wanted to expand from Austin. She wanted to expand from Atlanta. So it wasn't just her, oh, I'm gonna see how Brandon can get me onto these events in Austin, but like we did stuff in Atlanta, we did stuff in Nashville together. So it's also about what value I can bring to you and what value you can bring to me. That's true collaboration. So I think I don't know, it's just a part of my DNA, our DNA. I think that's why, again, we get along so well. And then I have my strengths, she has her strengths, and it just works so well together.
Core principles.
Yeah.
That's really it, man. Core principles. Now, let me ask you, if you guys don't mind sharing, what is, and I'm sure your vision together, it's immense, but I want to see if you can share with me and the crew, and you probably have said this before, but what is some areas of your vision that you guys are working on? And you don't have to say the whole thing, but I always like to think about, like, what are some short-term wins that you're looking forward to coming up? Because sometimes I ask this question so you guys don't go too far out, but more on a close range of time, so people can be on the lookout a little bit more immediate and be able to support us on that end.
I think one of the pivots we've been doing is just focusing on ourselves. A lot of times when we first started, we were heavily client based, which was good. That's just the season we was in. But now it's like we don't have any like long-term clients. Like we working with a festival in Tulsa that we excited for. That festival is in November. But aside from that, it's just like, what can we do for ourselves at this moment? Because that's the season we in. So part of that is the community aspect and the world building, which is events for us. So we got Chapsaki that we've been building out. We just did it. Yesterday was the second one we did, and we already doubled the attendees.
Quadrupled.
In a month.
It was packed yesterday. It was amazing. In 1 month, it was really encouraging.
Yeah. So we plan on doing those monthly, and then we have a big event that we're trying to end. So the Chapsaki is leading to our big event, which is Trap Rodeo in November, and we're trying to make that super special, super big. So yeah, it really just events right now, and then something, I don't know if I told you this, but we also a lifestyle brand, so we sell merch.
Okay.
So
is that one of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says therapy for a reason. So, as creative entrepreneurs, as creators ourselves, we often don't realize how important mental health is.
100%.
So we sell these shirts to help fund therapy for creators that we work with. So that's very important to us. And a lot of times, previously, we'll drop some shirts, but then we get caught up, of course, doing stuff for clients. Because when we have a client, like, we all in. Like, we put them before anybody. But now that we have the focus and the time, we really want to take the shirts and the lifestyle side to the next level. So it's really those two things: community building, our lifestyle brand, the merch, and of course the podcast. We want to keep doing that. I guess the name of the game is consistency for ourselves.
That's it.
So that's the focus.
Interesting how it ties up to your initial question, like about how do you start, and it starts with self.
Yes.
You guys are self within your business, and you're focusing your business first, and then also creating that impact outside for everyone else. It starts with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message here is you are your first business. You are your first design. You are your first, even sometimes I know people who start businesses and they start solving their own problem. Okay, I solved this problem. I have it. I'm sure there's other people in the world who have a very similar problem. It doesn't always happen because you're going to find a solution. But if you have a problem, start with you. Yeah. Especially for creative entrepreneurs. Like, what is your problem? Look deep inside and solve it for yourself, and then find other people who you can solve it with. I think that us as entrepreneurs who come from like a low resources background, we got to start small. We got to start, and that's something that I always advocate for. Don't spend too much money on big things. Start with MVP.
Yeah.
Start small, simple, right? And then you could get fancy later. But really ask some questions. There's multiple things why starting small is important. But I love the collaboration here. And I think that we can definitely move away from this individualistic approach, from this like me, because if you were to do this podcast on your own, no one is going to give you the medal.
Right.
She did.
Yeah.
You gave him the medal.
Yeah.
And you gave it back to her.
Yeah.
So the power of collaborating shows you everything. And then people are watching this too. So they're seeing what collaboration does. You motivating her to show up. You motivating him to show up. His wife calling you. Right? Like, that is the community that I think we got to start sort of heading towards. Same thing with barbers. Oh, I opened my own shop. No one cared. No one even asked. People walk in, they're ready to go out.
Yeah.
But people love when everybody's collaborating. And there's a
Right.
feeling. That's when they're like, oh, everybody gets a medal.
Yep.
But when you only think about yourself for your ego, so you could look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, I did it. And everybody's like, but when you do it together, it's more impressive. It's more of like, even moves faster.
Yeah.
You get things done quicker. Things actually, you make things happen. So anyway, I love collaboration. I think that that's something that is going to be taking you guys even further to the next level.
So let me ask you a question about collaboration then, because I know that this isn't the only business that you're a part of. What has attracted you to the other businesses that you've joined or invested in? And if you want to give us a little bit of a rundown, I don't know how much you can share, because I know, like, you want to keep your investments private, but tell me, like, what you can share, what attracts you to a business, and then what is it that you feel like the value that you bring to those businesses?
For me, multiple things that I look at. One is, who are the people that are behind the business that I want to invest in? Who are the people that are not just talkers, but actually have proven themselves to get things done? However they get it done, it's fine. But people who actually don't just say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. No, like, I want to put money and help people grow. If you wake up in the morning, put clothes on, and leave your house to get it done, things don't happen in bed.
Right.
Nothing happens there, unless it's with your significant other, but nothing other than sleep, right? I like to put my time and energy on people who actually get up. Just get up, like, as a baseline. And also prove yourself, right? Like, us as people from the low resources background, we got to really prove ourselves. We got to show our report card. Not just, other cultures have that privilege.
Right.
I don't think we do. I think that we're constantly, I wish I could just say, hey, I got this idea, fund it for me.
Right.
I actually have that insecurity a little bit, where I'm like, I don't want to ask for money if I can't do it first.
Yeah.
And then I can say, hey,
Right.
give me $5 million. I got this thing done. This is what we have accomplished. So we constantly have to, like, those are the people that I'm like, man, you got it done, because I understand how much it takes to even get to that MVP.
So this has been an incredible interview, and we're so grateful. I can't wait to continue to build a relationship with you, because I'm so inspired, and I feel like you really invested the time in us to pour into us, and you didn't have to. So one, I want to say thank you. But two, I like to end the podcast now with asking one question of our guest. This is the How to Build Your Own Dreams podcast. So what do you feel like currently is the most important tool that you need to have when building your dreams?
Well, I want to thank you both for having me here. This is an honor, and I am full of gratitude to get to meet you and continue building relationship with Brandon. So this is, for me, feels like a gift. So I am grateful for both of you, and I am wishing you guys nothing but the best. And there's no doubt that you guys are going to be successful. What you felt today, continue feeling that, and that's what's going to take you where you need to go. And the number one tool that can help you, so many number ones, all work at the same time, but I'll give you one that comes to mind. Whatever your dream is, get serious. And I'll give you an example of get serious means, because sometimes you have to be very detailed.
Yeah.
Because serious could mean anything for a lot of people. We talk about serious to the point when people ask you what you do for a living, you tell them exactly what your
Yes.
dream is. It starts there. That's the foundation. What do you do for a living? I own a barbershop. I was doing that even before I opened the shop. I was like, oh, I'm opening a bar. I wouldn't talk about my 9 to 5 because I was still in tech. I didn't even mention that. I was just so serious about it that I will work on the shop before work, during work, and after work. That's the level of seriousness that I'm talking about. The moment you're in that space, because that serious level, it's not even gonna feel serious. It's gonna feel like a game. It's gonna be fun.
Yes.
It's gonna be like, oh, I'm having so much fun just designing my shop and sketching it and, you know, creating like the barbershop. Like, it's just gonna be so cool. But you gotta be able to be serious about it. I think that's the number one tool of anything is get serious.
That's good.
Love that.
Yo, so this is another episode. Definitely inspiring more for me than maybe y'all. I'm gonna rewatch this one multiple times. But thank you for having us, man. The
Thank
shop
you for
is awesome. It's beautiful, man. I'm so grateful for what you're doing for not only the business but just for the community as a whole, especially here in Austin. It's needed. So yeah, thank you.
Also know that this is your space too.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
opening the doors for you guys to have more episodes here if you desire. We can work the schedule around it. Even have it during some business hours so you can
That'd
have
be
people
sick,
cut
yeah.
you
Yeah,
off.
that'd be dope.
I don't know. We could definitely. Again, we're thinking about
Yeah.
stuff. This is what creative business is about. Just like figuring out different ways. Yeah, just know that I'm opening the doors for both of
Facts.
you to, if you ever need the space for an
Appreciate
episode,
that.
I'm a text away.
Facts. So
Thank
drop
you.
your where people can find you, both personal and the shop, and then we'll close out.
Make sure you book a haircut with the rest of the team at thebarba.shop, THEBARBA.SHOP. There's no .com. How do you separate yourself from the rest? And that's our same Instagram handle. My personal Instagram handle is Abel_OHH. And yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone to come get a haircut, hang out with me, and just kick it.
Dope. May y'all tap in.
Comment,
yeah.
subscribe,
All that.
y'all.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.